Well, I'm Dan Lynch. I guess the period will be from like 73 to 93. And yeah, in 73, I was working at SRI and as the head of the computer center laboratory for the artificial intelligence group. And I saw the ARPANET my first day on the job when I went, holy cow, this is amazing. This is going to change the world. I mean, because somebody, I didn't know what it was, but someone showed me that worked for me, saying, hey boss, here's what, this thing is. And it connected to a computer in London and then to one in Utah and one in Boston. And I'm going, whoa, just instantaneous, and I said, this is good shit. I mean, this is really cool. So I got very interested in networking the very first time I saw it. Okay. I mean, I had been in computers for 10 years, but I'd never seen this, And so then I started helping debug the TCP a couple years later when it came into existence, and on my PDP-10 computer there at SRI, and having a blast doing it. I mean, debugging meant we didn't know what we were doing at the beginning of internetworking. We didn't know what it was going to bring us. It's true research, not knowing what, knowing what your goal is, but is to have two machines talk to each other across any medium, But anyway, so I did that for a few years, kind of, on nights and weekends, because I had a real job. I mean, and so then in the early 80s, I got another job in Los Angeles to run the computer center there for Information Sciences Institute, ISI. And then I was told to convert the whole system over to TCP. They'd been running NCP, the ARPANET protocol, for years. And so my job was to convert everything over to TCP. And I ran a group of about 100 people doing that. And it was chaos. It was chaos, because everything was contingent on everything else, and it was, one of those classical scheduling problems. And I had no formal training in that, but mainly it was social engineering, convincing people to work on it, and you had to work on that before he can work on that, or she has to do this first, it was scheduling problems, and so anyway, I did that, and for a few years.
When did you realize it had a worldwide impact? It really took off, and you said, my God, the work that you did and TCP/IP, and it made all the difference on the internet and the world.
That was about 1985. I saw it starting to really impact the world. And companies were starting to use it internally. Not the public internet as we see today, but just running internets within their own companies to be able to have their disparate computers talk to each other from location to location or even within a building. And because they had equipment from various vendors that they wanted to share their data with, and so they were getting use out of it themselves. The heck with the rest of the world, just with their own internal corporate desires, like big companies like General Motors and Ford and people like that. And then I saw some of the early vendors try to make products and doing a mediocre job of it, I'll be blunt. And I said, they need help. And I knew all the guys that invented this stuff because I'd been in that research community for about 10 years. I knew who they were from MIT and Stanford and UCLA and Utah and, and BBN and other places. And so I told them, I said, hey, you guys have failed. You've created this beautiful protocol, but you haven't taught the world how to use it. Now, will you help me teach them? If I organize some classes, will you come be the teachers? And then I had to get ARPA, who was their sugar daddy, to agree to all that, and they did eventually. It took about 6 months to get them to agree, just bureaucracy. And so that's when I put together the first classroom, 3-day event in Monterey. And I may as well pick a nice place to hold a class. Huh? And I didn't know where that was going to go. I just knew we had to. And so I had really all the vendors in the world who had TCP implementations or trying to do it there, and about 25 vendors. And there were 7 teams from IBM working on it, and they didn't even know about each other. And 3 teams from Hewlett-Packard didn't know about each other. And I knew about them because I just did, okay? And because, anyway, and so then at that meeting, I had a few of the big users there too, and they were talking to the vendors in this very open forum, sharing problems. And I could see where everybody realized there's more problems to be solved, and there's desire, and the vendors want to help, the users want to buy, and the researchers, that was the key. The researchers said, holy shit, there's problems we never even thought about. There's a whole new set of problems, And so that created a wonderful, virtuous cycle of research to vendors to customers, and they were all gaining by talking with each other. And so that's when I came home, told my wife, oh my God, I think I have a business here, and $50,000 in credit card debt, I mean, I took every credit card, I got $5,000 or whatever, cash on it, so I could go hire 2 people to help me put on the conferences and all that sort of jazz, and the rest is history. I mean, it grew into a giant company, Interop, and so that was neat, to see that grow. I mean, it grew from 86, grew from 300 people to 1,900 people the following year, to 29,000, to 51,000 in 4 years. Boom. So okay, something is happening here. That's for sure.
So lastly, help me tell others. Tell kids how important this is, and what to think about developing products using communication methods for the future. Help me inspire kids for the future.
Well, it's called You Win by Sharing. Yeah, I mean, it's really all about sharing, because we don't know, no one knows everything, and you only know what people need by talking to their needs. I mean, and so don't be shy, just get out there and tell people what your problems are and ask if they have any solution to this. Earlier, people were talking about Vince very smart and all that. He's very smart. Yes, he is. But he is a teacher. He is a collaborator. He knows how to get people to agree with each other and get ideas out of them and make no one wrong. That's very positive stuff. Yeah.